Dr. Vivian Balakrishnan, distinguished guests and friends. Let me first make a confession. I am not a big fan of book launches. The first time I had the book launch was decades ago, December 1967. It was my first book, and it was a meeting of the American Association of Advancement of Science in Chicago, snowing outside, and I thought all the people that came to the book launch wanted a somewhere warm place to come and have a free drink. And this is my next. In 2013, in between, I've written 75 other books. None of them had book launches, and I suspect this will be my last book launch as well in my life. Singapore water story is an interesting one for us because water has become, rightly or wrongly, an important issue. Yesterday, I looked at Google and see how many entries I could get if I put the word water crisis. I haven't Googled water crisis for at least 1 year. And I just wanted to see what has happened in 1 year. Well, yesterday, Google came out with 445 million items on water crisis, which is twice of it had a year ago. Then, as Dean Mogobani said, I put water wars, see what has happened. Again, I had not seen water wars a year ago, until last World Water Day in Google. It had 188 million entries under water wars, which is more than double it had 1 year ago. So whatever it is, water crisis and water war is obviously a growth industry. And yet, as Kishore mentioned, there is absolutely no reason why any city, more than 200,000 people, anywhere in the world, could not have clean water 24 hours a day that can be drunk straight from the tap. Excuses are many. And the two biggest excuses are, we don't have enough water. Number two, we don't have money to pay for water. It's all very expensive. After decades of work looking into the various systems, I have come to the conclusion those are myths which our professionals, bureaucrats, and politicians in most countries like to propagate because no one wants to confront the truth. When we looked at Singapore water story, why did we start? The answer was very simple. Not only we wanted to see why Singapore had succeeded, but also we wanted to see, can somebody else do the same job as well? We wanted to look for success. We were not looking for crises. And today in my class, and I have a wonderful group of students, and they're all here because I threatened them if they don't come, their grades will be affected. I asked them, can you tell me which country has the highest water consumption in the world? And there were the usual suspects like US or Canada or things like that. The highest by far, and I say Singapore's, in my view, Singapore's consumption is quite on the high side, 152 liters per person per day. Highest by far now is 500 liters per capita per day. And would you believe where it is? In the Middle East. Dubai and Kuwait. And they tell me When I go and Minister of Quiet, they said, look, we have a big problem because we don't have enough water. And I say, if you're using 500 liters per capita per day, you are losing 40% of water from your system. Well, I think the problem is something different. We looked at Singapore. Why did it succeed? And like Dr. Balakrishnan, I'll just one name, Lee Kuan Yew. I've been advising 19 governments, including a few prime ministers and one king and umpteen water ministers. Not one prime minister, not one king is interested in water unless there's a flood or drought. The day the flood is over, the drought is over, water disappears from the political agenda until the next thing it comes. Look at Australia, 10 years drought. And I pray to God the drought had continued at least for one more year, because the Australians have made some tough decisions, and sadly at the 10th year the rain came, torrential stuff, heaven opened up, and all the political will and the unanimity disappeared, and the thing is back to square one. So that is the problem. One is the political leadership is missing. And the reason Singapore is different, you had a prime minister for a long period of time who, because of his experience, looked at water as an important factor, and not when it was there's a drought or a flood, but he wanted to get reports on water many, many times. Why did Singapore River was cleaned up? Because I can tell you as a bureaucrat, as a director, former Director General of the Government of Canada, when your Prime Minister wants a report every month on his desk, and now you know he reads that report and asks some searching questions, it concentrates your mind wonderfully. And that's what Lee Kuan Yew did with the Singapore River cleanup. He wanted a report every month on his desk so that he sees what's happening. And once you realize that type of support, no wonder Singapore has such a beautiful water story. And the second item is what I have found in my discussions with all the leaders, many leaders of the countries and the international systems. I judge the leader not by his or her vision, because a leader can only do so much. I judge the leader by the group of people he or she has around him who can do the things that once the vision has been agreed to. And in Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew had a remarkable group of people who made that vision possible. When we talked with him, when we went to see him, we were threatened, be careful. He's a tough person. He's known to have cancelled interviews halfway through thinking this is wastage of time. So we went completely worried. Siciliano went to see him, apprehensive, to sit before this great man. I have to tell you, within 4 or 5 minutes, we forgot we were talking to Lee Kuan Yew. He was warm, he was witty, he was frank. He told us bluntly, these are some things you got to know in order that you understand what the situation was in 1965. But these are not for quotation, this is for you to understand the framework. Except that you can use whatever we say, whatever he says. Then at the second interview, we decided we'd like to dedicate the book to him, because we felt without his support and leadership, Singapore would not have achieved so much. So we told him, we'd like to dedicate the book to you. He smiled. He said, you know what? You don't need my permission to dedicate the book to me. You can dedicate to anybody you want. You don't need the permission. Then I said, no, we don't need your permission. We can dedicate to you or anybody else. But we want to make sure the book just does justice to your reputation and to your legacy, which is immense. Then he smiled again. He said, if you want to dedicate it to me, it will be my pleasure. So the book, we dedicated to him because we think without Lee Kuan Yew and the wonderful team he put around him, it would not have been possible. We, what we're trying to do now is, as I said, the world's water problem is solvable. We're trying to find examples like Singapore, where problems have been solved. And within the next 2 years, we'll have a series of books coming out showing success stories, enabling environment. Instead of talking about the crisis, we're going to talk about solutions. How countries have done that. If I tell you right now, a city like Phnom Penh has a better water supply, Roger, than London Thames Water. Phnom Penh having a better water supply indicators than London or Los Angeles or Paris. Most people say you are crazy. It is not. How did they do it? So we want to find out these success stories. And these stories are coming out from different parts of the world, which sadly academia and the world doesn't know. So we're trying to find out why people succeeded, how they succeeded, how they have used water as an engine for growth. Indira Gandhi was one of my mentors. And I remember a discussion I had in 1981 with her. And she told me, look, I'm happy to see you anytime you want. But if you want to talk to me about efficient water management, I'm not the person. Go and talk to the Central Water Commission. They will know about those things. And I was horrified. Here was a prime minister, and I thought the sun rises and sets with water. I'm not interested in water at all. And then she said, it is how we put the issue. I'm not interested in water. But if you talk to me what water can do to reduce poverty, if you talk to me what we need to do so that we can use water as an engine for economic development, I'm interested. Those are issues, as a Prime Minister, I'm interested. But if you're talking about nitty-gritties of water management, I'm not interested at all. And then I realized from there on, unlike the rest of my professional colleagues, who think water management is the end, I learned from Indira Gandhi that no, that is not the end. It's just a means to an end. And the end is how do we improve the quality of life? How do we improve poverty? How do we use water for economic development? And the reason my colleagues say, how do you have access to the corridors of power in these countries? Because I talk the language politicians understand, and also language that is important. I'm not interested in efficient water management. What I'm interested in, how do we manage something so well so that your lifestyle becomes better, the people have a better living standard, and their expectations are met. I am pleased to say that Professor Lan, who is here, is translating the book into Mandarin. In 4 months' time, a Mandarin edition will be available, and I hope a few other things will be available. But it will be amiss of me not to thank two people. Cecilia has already thanked Chu and Leong. Mr. Chu, I don't want to embarrass you in public by telling you I have worked with probably 50, 60 of the best utilities manager in the world. None of them can hold a candle to you. And I'm a scientist, and I'm not a diplomat. I don't mince my word. If it wasn't good, I've said equally the opposite. You and your staff have been remarkably helpful. Without you, we could not have. We never had any pressure to change any for analysis. A thing that we were worried at the beginning, that there will be pressure, that there will be some quid pro quo, that will give you the data, but you have to follow the party line. Unfortunately, as an academic, that is unacceptable. It's a one-way traffic. You give the data, we give you the analysis, we listen to your comments, but the analysis is ours. So the analysis is ours, and to their credit, PUB has not asked to change one word of the analysis. And I'm grateful that you did not put us in that awkward position. So I have no idea what we would have done had we faced that awkward position. Second, my good friend Valerio Nannini, thank you for your support. Nestle has been immensely helpful. In fact, throughout my career, I mentioned this will be our last book launch, but next week we'll be in Switzerland with the chairman of the board of Nestle to address the world's media. It will be a book launch on our next book, which is coming out on corporate social responsibility, which has nothing to do with water, but CSR. So we'll be discussing that on Wednesday. So thank you, Valerio, for your support, because as you know, I have no funds available for providing a small receptions, and thanks to Valerio, I thank you all of you, thank you on all our behalf for Nestle to support our receptions and your friendship. And finally, on a Friday afternoon, to find so many people here again, I really want to thank you for your support, for your friendship. The years we have spent off and on in Singapore has passed very soon. This is probably our last year in Singapore, but it's been a wonderful place to work, wonderful place with many memories, and a wonderful place to learn many lessons. I thought I had seen most of the things in life that has to be seen. No, we're just starting. And Singapore has been, as Cecilia said, a wonderful journey, and it will never end. It will continue. But thank you for making all these things productive. Thank you.